Hey gorgeous, this is episode number 324 with the wonderful Anke Herrmann.
Hi, this is Anke Herrmann. You are listening to the Hard Sells podcast with Christine Schlonski. Enjoy.
Well, have you ever been frustrated by tech stuff? I for sure have, and therefore I have an amazing guest today, Anke Herrmann. And she's a business coach, an online tech mentor and consultant. She's the author of Taming the Tech Monster. She's a podcast host and a dog lover. In 2004, Anke quit her software developer job in the UK to start her own business in Spain. And today she helps passionate but tech-frustrated authors, coaches, and educators to map out the steps and implement the online tech needed to turn their big vision into a flourishing business without the headache. So I am so super excited to have Anke on the show today. In case we have not yet met, I'm Christine Schlonski, host of Hard Sells Podcast, where I talk with inspirational, successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs and business leaders about how they have built a successful business. And as you might guess, in many cases, these entrepreneurs had to overcome their own challenges and struggles with selling, and so they can share from their heart and can give you amazing tips and advice. Some of my past guests include Bob Burke, Ann Wilson, Kate Erickson, Anthony Inario, Susie Carter, Andrea Waltz, just to name a few. And this episode is brought to you by Hard Sells Academy, where we support heart-centered, ambitious entrepreneurs to really redefine sales so that they can see sales as love, can grow their business exponentially together with the impact they are creating, and they can create a lifestyle and the freedom they are looking for. So if selling doesn't feel good for you, if sales is something you try to avoid, then you want to hop on over to christineschlonski.com and get more information on how we can help you to create a business that you love while having more impact and selling more with ease, grace, and confidence, being authentic in the process. So let's dive into today's episode with Anke Herrmann, where we talk about lots of things and also about the slippery slope of rejection. Well, I am so super excited you're here, Anke. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here too.
Yeah, and we have a really interesting topic, which at first sight, it does not really have anything to do with sales. But when you look closer, it does have to do with sales because it will help people to free up time so they can actually sell by doing things maybe in a better way or in a way that's easier for them. We talk about taming the tech monster, which for so many coaches, solopreneurs, healers, right? They want to serve, but they do not want to be held back by all the tech stuff. So tell me a little bit, like, how did you get into tech, especially as a woman? And why is it such an important topic for the entrepreneur who does not have like a huge company yet, or who is really kind of starting out or in the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I got into the world of technology in the mid-90s, more or less by accident, to be honest. I was stressed out and tired by my badly paid, stressful translator job. And I literally sent out my resume to anybody who'd have it. And I got a job in a software company. And all of a sudden I found myself surrounded by, all the programming tools and programmers who were at the work with a lot of enthusiasm and passion. And my job was also giving me enough time to explore and to try things out. And I really got hooked quite quickly because as an ex-translator, it felt, programming, that's just like a real language, but simpler because it's more structured and it doesn't have all the exceptions. So I've really felt drawn to it. And it didn't take long until colleagues would come and say, hey, why don't you take this and this industry exams? You could get a job at this. And I was like, but do I really want to work in an all-male environment? I wasn't keen. I imagined this to be really difficult, and I'd have to be twice as good to be half as accepted. And I wasn't really technical growing up. I wasn't a tomboy at all. Like I was, very girly in that sense. And so I thought I had too much to catch up to ever be any good at this. And so I put up quite a bit of resistance until curiosity kind of won me over. And I thought, well, I can try it out. If I don't like it, I don't have to keep going that way. And I found that literally all the ideas that I had about why this was going to be difficult turned out to be not true. Right?
Sounds a little bit like sales.
Exactly, right? So there was a lot of that. And it's a big part of what I work on with my clients these days, because there's a lot of the time people have those same fears about, oh, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not technical. I'm a woman. I'm too old, because I also got into this relatively late. And I've seen all of that not to be true. And it's important for people to start breaking these assumptions open, because, as you said, if you allow the tech hurdle to take up too much of your time, you don't have time for other really important things to build your business. And headspace is a big one. It's a time itself, but it's also the headspace and feeling preoccupied with it, and having that sense that all you worry about is some tech thing, and you don't even have your head free to be creative when it comes to selling or to marketing or to offering or serving your clients. So it's really the non-technical part of the tech problem is really where the key of it all is.
So interesting. I just love hearing those stories. Like I got there by accident.
It doesn't always happen like that.
I believe there are no accidents, and I somehow have that feeling that you believe that too. And I love how you said that. Like tech is so much easier because there are no exceptions. Right? When you learn a language, there's so many exceptions. Like grammar usually for me is nothing.
Yeah.
I really enjoy. I do pick it up. Well, of course, if you learned it in school, then you have to follow a certain system to survive the class. But when you learn it in real life, I just feel like tuning in, listening, picking it up, imitating, it really, really helps in acquiring that skill. But it's so true once you are over that hurdle, over the resistance that where I was in a long, long time, that I didn't want to waste time with all the technical stuff. I didn't know what to expect when I started my business. Just a calendar tool is not enough. So, I love having that conversation today with you, especially how people can overcome those tech hurdles so they can free up their time for sales. And with sales, maybe they have the same emotions around it. Like, this is something I have to do, but I don't enjoy doing it. And I feel like this is kind of like a parallel world, sales and tech. People usually do not enjoy it, but they do need it to have a successful business. So curiosity won you over. When your clients come to you, they're probably not as curious as you used to be to really figure out the things. So they come and hire you. Tell us a little bit about the mindset, and also like how, when you started your business, how you overcame your mindset in, selling or selling more, or really being all of a sudden going from a job to a business owner.
Yeah, there's a lot in that question. When people come to me, they usually have an idea for something that they want to create. Sometimes it's like, I'm starting out with a business, or sometimes it's like, I'm thinking of creating this online program or a series of workshops, but then they know they need at least part of it to be implemented online, and they don't usually even know where to start. And quite often they've been sold certain systems, certain platforms that turned out to be not perfect. And they're hesitant, they're not quite sure. And there's really that, and I really see it all the time. What looks like a tech problem never is. And even the resistance, even the tech is, even the fear of it, nobody is scared of pixels on a screen, right? What people hate is that feeling of overwhelm, information overload. It's when you're standing there and there's somebody's throwing balls at you from all sides and you just can't catch them all. And you know, that feeling people hate. People hate the feeling of being out of their depths, of not or having that feeling that they don't really understand. They're in the jungle and don't really know their way around. And there's this sensation that there's predators lurking behind every vine. That's what people hate, not the pixels on the screen, not a piece of software tool, or, you know, nobody hates a tool. It's that sensation of I'm vulnerable for being taken for a ride. I don't even know what to ask. When I ask, I don't really understand the explanation, because most of the time the explanations assume a certain level of knowledge that a lot of people just simply don't have when you first start out. So it's all of that makes the tech and the sales, you know, turn into a challenge. It's really very much the same thing. And I remember when I first left the job and started out on my own, the biggest hurdle I found separating myself from what I was selling, right? Because it seems always easy when you sell on behalf of the company, right? Then all of a sudden when somebody says no, well, you know, you don't want it, well, whatever. But if I sell something that involves me as a person, then all of a sudden it's so easy to go down that slippery slope of a rejection says something about me, about my capabilities, about, you know, that rejection feels really personal, and seeing through that was the biggest challenge. But once you see through it, that people will always just buy what makes sense for them, then it's much easier to, you know, to show up fully and to not make a big story around somebody saying no to something you offer.
Yeah, that's such an important lesson. And, you know, looking at, you know, your CV, so to speak, like you lived in Germany, you moved to the UK, you're now in Spain. So there is a lot of potential that you gave yourself to be rejected, right? Changing or switching a culture, changing country, changing language is not that easy. So when you look back, do you feel it was easier for you moving country than selling, or was it an equally strange feeling at first?
I think selling was harder in a sense, because I guess it's always the challenges you expect, they're easier to deal with because you can mentally prepare you. But I think our upbringing, and at least, you know, uni and anything I did before, didn't prepare me for being my own boss. So the challenges that came there were really from directions that I didn't see coming at all. Like, I did not know that this was going to be such a crash course in personal development, that it was more about who I am becoming than what I'm selling. It's not just about the product. Like, I have to become the person who can, you know, sell that to somebody in a way so that they can see the value and they know that they're getting their money's worth out of whatever I'm offering.
Yeah. I love the comparison with crash course and personal development. That's what I feel too. Like, going into entrepreneurship really is probably the best course in personal development you can take, because now like all the theory, right, becomes really, really practical all at once, and there's no time to adjust. It's either you've got to make it or you don't. And it's beautifully said.
And I think it would have been easier if I'd been in if I'd looked into the direction of personal development before I started my business, it probably wouldn't have surprised me that much. But I came with this total innocence, like, oh, starting my own business. Well, that sounds like a good plan. Let's go for it. So I really didn't have any idea of this whole world of personal development. So I was totally surprised when it all of a sudden felt really personal when somebody says, oh, but can I now also have this? Or, oh, can I have this cheaper? And, you know, it opened up all these beliefs and assumptions that all of a sudden became visible, and you can't hide it. Because then also you have nowhere to hide. You can't hide behind a job description, you can't hide in a team, or you can't kind of hide behind a boss or anything. So it's just, you're there, you're standing in front of the waves, and you take it all. You know?
Interesting. Yeah, that's so true. I love the piece that you can't hide anymore. Yeah. That's very true. So for all those brave souls who are listening, who are obviously into self-development, into creating a company or planning a company, and really want to become their own boss, what do you feel was one of your biggest learnings in regards to sales that you mastered and that you could share with the audience today?
The one thing that jumps to mind is that it has nothing to do with you. People buy what is of value to them right now. And I think a lot of the time we are so, especially when we're so emotionally invested in what we're offering, we make it a lot about us and what we want them to experience and what we want them to have. But it's easy to forget that people don't care. For them, your offering is just one of the things they scroll past on a daily basis, online or wherever. So it's about the value they perceive for themselves. And if you start looking at everything through that lens, from what you put on your website to how you offer your course, how you describe what you're offering, if you have a course or a program. And it's incredible how often people send me, oh, can I have a look at my website, or can you have a look at my landing page? And I'm looking at this, so why should I care, right? It's all about them. It's all about, I want to do this and I want to offer that. And you think, well, people don't care. Show me how this is valuable to me. And we're talking. And I think that shift of perspective is I think, the most crucial element to all of it.
Yeah, putting yourself into the client's shoes, right? Or as I say, the soulmate client, like really the person you want to attract, and not making any compromise, because you're the boss, right? I mean, you can't hide behind someone or behind the company or job description, as you said earlier, but also now you can make the decisions, and nobody can force you to work with someone you don't want to work with.
Like, that is true. I wish somebody had told me sooner in the beginning, when I definitely fell for that pretty badly in the first few years, that I thought if somebody comes to me inquiring about what I'm offering, that it was almost like a shop, a retail shop, where you walk in and you'd expect, okay, I'm coming in here, I want this, and it's your obligation to give to me what I want. And to realize that, as you say, I don't have to work with anybody if I don't want to. Yeah, that was kind of liberating. And there's a saying of a guy called Landon Porter. He has a podcast as well, and he phrased it in a way that always stuck with me. And he said, be very careful who you allow to obligate you with their money.
Ooh, I like that.
And I just that really hit home for me, because it's so true. And I've put my foot in on several occasions where I wasn't careful and found myself working with people that weren't a great fit. And then I didn't get to do my best work. They didn't get the best results. So it doesn't really, you're not doing them a favor either. So to be really clear on who you can do your best work with, I think that's probably more important than we initially think when we're sort of so worried about getting anybody to buy something. To have that strength to say, no, I want to deliver my best work. And that happens with these people who have that problem.
Yeah, totally. Like getting really, really clear on who you serve and who you want to serve, right? I feel when you really have that connection, that's why I call them soulmate clients.
True.
Because if I don't want them over for dinner, well, then I don't want to work with them at all. And, this is obviously not true for an online course or for, an all access pass for a summit series. But in general, the more I spend of my time or I invest of my time, I want to really make sure I have the right people in front of me, because as you said, I know, doing the best work, that's what I want to do. That lights me up.
I guess it takes a few misfits to even know yourself who the soulmate clients are. So I think you probably can't jump the process, that process of getting clear on who that is. I think being conscious of it helps a lot, probably shortcuts a lot of the trouble, but I don't think you can sort of skip and go straight to perfect client all in one go. I think it's a dance. Like you step out with something, but then it also depends on, sometimes it's surprising who actually responds. It always feels like part of it is pattern spotting. When you look at the people you work with and think, okay, who did I most enjoy, or who got the best results, which is usually the same people, and then find what do they have in common. That's really quite interesting. And it doesn't always include everything you thought of in the beginning.
Yeah. But I think when you put it out, at least, that you kind of have a checklist. And then when you see the red flags, you have the strengths to say no. And then it is a process. And I always redefine my process as well, right? I have like the list with who the perfect soulmate is, and then from time to time I add stuff that I didn't see before, with like, oh, I really like this is so aligned, this was so much fun, like add it in. And then the more clarity you have, it's true, there's probably no one hit it 100% at the first time, but also not making the mistake of taking someone on board that you regret taking on board can be avoided. And I did listen to my coaches and mentors and people who told these, well, basically horror stories of wishing and praying that the contract was over because they took them on board because they needed the money and all of that. I was like, oh no, I never want to be in that situation. So knock on wood, I haven't, but I do redefine my soulmate client on a regular basis. Yeah. So what was the very, very first thing that you ever sold in your entire life? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I remember. It was actually a dress that I made for a friend. And it was really interesting because she had a party coming up, like I think it was sort of her parents' anniversary or something, and she wanted to wear a dress. Now the thing she had like her upper body was a different size from her lower body. So she could find skirts, she could find blouses, but she'd never find a piece that would fit, all over. So I made her a dress.
So
that was
cool.
The first time I ever got paid for,
for your work.
Making something.
How did it feel?
It felt fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I love these stories because, just seeing what kind of interaction did you have? Did it feel good or did it not feel good? Did you get in trouble, depending, your age and what you sold, or not? It really kind of defines your relationship with money as well, in a certain sense, as an entrepreneur.
That's very interesting. I never thought of it like that, but actually now that you're saying it, that wasn't even the first one. No, that was actually something I made, but it's always something that I made. And that dress was not the first thing, because I remember now, like even earlier at school, I made, I can't remember, like a scarf or like knitting. It was something knitted or crocheted or something that I had. And this friend of mine goes, oh, I love this. I love this. And she didn't pay me with money because we were like 12. We didn't have any money, but she paid me with samples of lipsticks and stuff that her, like little Avon kind of samples that she had. And that was like, we were in East Germany, like that was a treasured prize, that was probably worth more than money. So that was the first time that I got kind of paid for something that I made. Yeah,
cool.
Very exciting.
So you exchanged. Yeah, awesome. Great story. Wonderful. Well, I can't wait to have the next conversation with you. Time just flies by. Anything you want to leave us with for this first episode?
I think having your own business and selling and tech, it's all the same thing. It's perhaps more demanding than you're being sold by a lot of the messages that come at you from all angles. But at the same time, it's also so much more satisfying than you can even imagine when you first start out. It's just all a little bit more intense than you might think. So it's definitely a red pill kind of experience, but I don't think you'll ever regret it.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to our next interview.
Me too.
Well, if you ever have faced tech frustration in your life, you probably could relate pretty well with this episode. I hope you have gotten lots of golden nuggets out of this episode. And if you feel that you could support some of your friends by listening to Hard Sales Podcast, please just go ahead and share the podcast with your friends. Hop on over to christineschlonski.com, find the podcast tab and the episode with Anke, where you will also find the transcripts, the show notes, all the links that connect to Anke, as well as the resources we talked about. Once you're over there, sign up for the empowerment notes. That is empowerment right into your inbox, where I share updates on Hard Sales Podcast, where I also share some amazing resources, tools, and things that I have learned on my entrepreneurial journey. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in this beautiful world. And I'm saying bye for now.